Hazbin Hotel's first season has recently finished, and at the end of the last episode, spoiler alert, skip ahead if you haven't seen it, it's revealed that Sir Pentious is the first redeemed sinner. And I've been seeing people across the internet taking other Hazbin Hotel sinners and redesigning them to redeem souls, and I thought it would be cool to try out. So without further ado, let's get into Hazbin Hotel sinners as redeemed souls. Let's create some chaos! After the battle at the hotel and the subsequent rebuilding of said hotel, things went differently. As far as Charlie, Vaggie, or anyone else knew, they had stopped the extermination from happening, maybe even altogether. As word spread of the group's actions, the hotel saw a massive influx of guests. While the hotel previously had only 2 people staying in it, not counting those called in from Alistair's favors, there were now around 40 to 50 wayward sinners looking for their shot at redemption, even though everyone still didn't know if that was possible. The new hotel had a lot of renovations that changed the way the place operated. While there still was a bar that Husk tended to, it lacked any illicit beverages in an attempt to have sinners confront their metaphorical demons rather than hide from them. However, this made opening up a lot harder for those who needed to vent. Husk witnessed this firsthand. Sure, he was able to get through to Angel Dust a few months back, but that was after a long song and dance outside of a dingy bar. He certainly couldn't do that for everyone. He was already running out of lyrics. Instead, Husk worked more on his appearance and his demeanor, adopting a more gentle tone in his voice while talking to patrons. This worked a good deal on most people, but for those who were still hesitant to talk, Husk had to exercise patience. When it was clear that a sinner was holding back, rather than continuously prying until they left the hotel, Husk would perform little card and magic tricks to lighten the mood. He would then make small talk with them until they were more comfortable around him and saw him as more than just an employee of the hotel. Little did he realize that by helping other sinners open up, they were helping him open up as well. Husk made plenty of genuine connections with a lot of the sinners, and soon many came to the bar just to chat with him. Alongside manning the bar, Husk became an entertainer at the hotel, doing magic shows in the evening that many hotel residents would come and see, either to boost their morale or just for the hell of it. Now, going into this episode, I was actually very hesitant, or indecisive rather, about if I wanted to do stories or not, because I didn't really have concrete ideas to make full stories of, but then again, I wanted to convey what each sinner did to redeem themselves in a way that wasn't just, here, let me explain it to you. Because I thought it would be cool to explore the aftermath of the battle of the hotel and how the characters I'm using in this episode were changed from the whole experience of the first season of Hazbin and move on to obtain the same status as Sir Pentious at the very end. But that being said, since we only have one character who I have a sinner and a redeemed design for, it was really hard to know what to do for these characters, so colors became the main focus of these redesigns. As you can see in Sir Pentious's design, if you watch the show, everything is much more brighter and bluer, with a few hints of yellows and oranges in there. So for Husk, I took that into account, usually swapping out any of the dark colors for an orange, and then in Husk's case, using the red and turning that into yellow. Instead of those circles, which I assume are meant to represent poker chips maybe, I did the little magic stars that a kid would draw in space and stuff like that. And I also really like the idea of him becoming an entertainer, because while reading through the wiki of Hazbin Hotel, other than just gambling and being a bit apathetic, as you can see that I wrote in the start of this one, Husk also used to be a magician. And so taking that and using it to entertain the patrons of the guests, I thought were a really cool idea. And finally, I also wound up getting rid of his little air quotes goatee on the bottom, just to make him look a little more lively and younger almost. And I also wound up giving him a shirt just to give him a little something extra for his redeemed design and, clean him up a little bit, for lack of a better word. I really like how the magic on his hands went too. I think the hand positions themselves are a little too long, and I could probably shorten those digits a little bit, but the magic trails were so much fun to do. I downloaded some brushes off of Envato Elements and then just faded them out and had them trail off into the distance. I thought that was really cool. Cherri Bomb stuck around the hotel to observe the happenings in the aftermath of the battle. After sharing a kiss with Sir Pentious before watching him get destroyed by Adam, she needed some time to gather her bearings. She still wasn't keen on changing her ways just yet, but decided to stick around the hotel nonetheless. That's not to say people didn't try to convince her while she was there. Angel Dust and Charlie talked to her every day to see if she changed her mind, but every day her answer remained the same. She kept bragging that she was at the top of her game, and with the exterminations being a thing of the past, she had no reason to redeem herself. However, she only told them the same thing every day to get them to leave her alone. Deep down, Cherri was actually weighing her options. Every day she saw people with smiles on their faces that they tried to be better versions of themselves. She came to realize that all the turf she owned and all the warring and partying were only temporary fixes to how she felt. On top of all that, there was Sir Pentious, whom she had no idea what happened to. He confessed his love to her before sacrificing himself. With each and every day after the battle, the hole in her soul got harder and harder to ignore. She hid herself away in the hotel for most of the day as she gathered her thoughts. Eventually, she came around and talked to Charlie about getting involved as a resident of the hotel. Ecstatic upon hearing the news, Charlie gave Cherri Bomb the biggest hug that almost sent her into the next life, without a chance to redeem herself. Cherri Bomb ventured out of the hotel one day and made one big final flashy show to get the attention of all her rivals, where she would announce that all her turf was theirs for the taking. She walked away ready to start her path to redemption, ignoring all the cries and insults that her rivals threw at her. Unfortunately, that wasn't the only thing they threw at her. As she made her way back to the hotel, a grenade landed at her feet, and before Cherri could react, everything went white. Cherri Bomb opened her eye and thought that she was still recovering from the blast. All around her, everything was still white, but the more she focused, she realized she could clearly make out tables, furniture, chairs, and a snake-like figure in a white suit and a top hat. This one might be my favorite of the episode. I really like the colors I chose, and while they are similar to the same colors I chose for Husk, I like where I placed them better on Cherri Bomb rather than I did for Husk. I also really love how the pose came out, and I think this one of Cherri Bomb, minus the rendering, is the closest to being accurate to the style of the show. Like Husk and the next one I do, have more my style thrown in, where I think the one with Cherri Bomb is very much closer to how she would look in the show, give or take. And although I really like the colors, they still prove to be a tricky thing for this drawing as well, especially for the skin, because I forget if I've mentioned this before, but the closer you get to a pure white or a pure black in your flatting stage, the less the shading will show up in the rendering stage. So I had to make sure for Cherri Bomb and for the other two as well, that the light colors I was choosing were far enough away from pure white, but not so much that they became like a murky gray or a murky blue. As for her outfit, I took heavy inspiration from the outfit that she wears during the final fight scene in the final episode. And I just cleaned it up a little bit, made it a little bit less patchy and war-torn. It comes out looking a little too 9-to-5 office worker, which I don't think would fit Cherri's character either as a sinner or as a redeemed soul, but I just thought it was a better outfit to choose than her normal outfit in the rest of the show. Part of this pose too, I was also going to give her fireworks like as a framing device, like wrapping around her, but I felt like doing that would have made her story too similar to Husk, where she becomes this entertainer of the hotel of like fireworks or whatever, and lifts the spirits of the people at the hotel. So I went away with that and just did this cool kind of twirling-esque pose that I think turned out really well. And I think maybe if I did the magic or the fireworks or whatever, it would have added that little bit of extra touch that brought it from good to great. Speaking of story, though, between this episode and a couple of the other ones in the past, I'm starting to realize that one of the hardest things for me to write in stories is character deaths, especially characters I don't own. I wanted to explore like what each character in this video did to redeem themselves, and I almost wrote in each story a way they died in order to get to heaven. And then I realized that I don't really need that part of it. Like, I can show what they did to redeem themselves, and this is how they would look when they die and get to heaven. However, for Cherri Bombs, though, I really wanted her to meet back up with Sir Pentious in heaven, and so her dying had to become a part of her story. Although her dying did come a little bit quicker than I originally intended. I intended her to go and actually do acts to redeem herself rather than just one thing, giving up turf and then dying in that aftermath. It was supposed to be a little bit more prolonged than it ended up being. But overall, I'm still really happy with it. So let's take a look at Redeemed Cherri Bomb. Alistair was gone. At least, that's what the V's believed. They saw him dissipate into smoke after his fight with Adam and had been too busy celebrating to know that he wasn't dead. Vox, Valentino, and Velvet got to work, scheming as to how they were going to take control of Hell. However, when the next day dawned, Vox felt different. Things were looking up for him and the V's. Alistair was gone and Hell was theirs to control. And yet, he felt like something was missing. Vox did his best to ignore the hollow feeling and focus on his new uninterrupted reign as leader, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't shake the feeling. Thinking back on the whirlwind of events that happened within the last day, he came to a realization, one he wasn't eager to accept. Everything he did and every person he manipulated, every power move he made, was all out of spite for Alistair. Bitter that he was bested by him on top of Alistair's rejection made Vox thirsty for revenge. He waited for years to get back as Alistair, ready to deal the final blow. And now that someone had beaten him to it, what was his next step? Vox continued to work with Valentino and Velvet on their plan, while on the side was trying to figure out what he was supposed to do with Alistair seemingly out of the picture. Going about his daily routine didn't do Vox very good either. In fact, it made him feel worse than he expected. Gaining support and power through his normal means of manipulation made Vox feel a sense of guilt previously unfelt before. Everything Vox had ever known about himself and the world around him was falling apart. Vox quickly ran through all his options, and as the days went on, it became clearer and clearer that there was only one thing he could do to learn some way to fix this. Vox had to go to Charlie's hotel for advice. The same hotel Alistair was in. Alive and well. Now, realistically, this is probably the most out-of-character redemption story of the three. But I thought it would be interesting to explore what if Vox's reason for redemption is because his vengeance has dissipated, and it's what his vengeance was his motivation for 7+ years, and now that it's gone, he doesn't know what to do. I thought that would be cool, and I also originally wanted him to start making technology and helping people genuinely, rather than just as a manipulation to gain power and favor. But I couldn't really figure out how to work that into the story, because Vox most definitely would not suddenly go, oh, actually helping people makes me feel really good about myself. Like, he wouldn't just wake up one day and discover that. There'd have to be probably a long, arduous trial and error process before he even thought about trying that out, which would also be what Charlie probably teaches him once he gets to the hotel. But I really felt like the Alistair cliffhanger was a really good place to stop his story. And if this gets a part 2, maybe I can pick up his story alongside Valentino or Velvet's. If you've noticed, one thing I did for all the characters when switching up their designs to make them a little more, air quotes, heavenly, was replace their toothy smiles and all the sharp teeth with a more set of normally teeth. And honestly, in Vox's case, the normal teeth are way more unsettling. So I really don't know how I feel about that part. The rest of it, I really like. But that being said, the colors I used alongside the small little redesign details I put in make Vox look the least like the character I was referencing. It looks a lot more like a Vox-esque character in heaven. And if memory serves correct, similar to how Angel Dust's sister can be seen in heaven, where it's like Angel Dust design but reimagined. It's something more like that. It's like a Vox relative that is actually in heaven instead of hell. Something like that. But that's all I've got for notes. Let's take a look at Vox as a redeemed soul. I gotta say, I'm really happy with how this video turned out. I was a little nervous because I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make good designs for their redeemed characters. But overall, I really like how it turned out. It turned out much better than I expected. I had so much fun with this video, and I hope you did too. If you did, feel free to hit the like and subscribe button. And if you want more Hazbin Hotel content, I turned a few Hazbin Hotel characters into Pokemon gym leaders, so you can check that out up here. And if you want to see a second part of this, let me know down in the comments below. Or if you want to see the opposite of this, I think I can make some pretty cool heaven characters and design them as sinners. So let me know down in the comments if you want to see that. And that's all I've got for you today. My name is KyngPin Creations, and I will see all of you in the next video. Take care, everyone.